Hi, good morning, guys. Hope everything's still going well. As you open up the weekly homework this week, you're going to notice a couple of different problems. We wanted to provide this video as an example or a reference that you can use. A lot of the problems that you're going to see in the next couple of weeks are going to be very similar to these problems. With that said, if you're still having trouble typing into Google Docs, please reach out to your teachers, and we can help you, understand how to, type some of these symbols in. Or if you just want to write them, on paper and then take a picture of that, we can also accept it that way. All right, so looking at the first one, 3x minus 7 is greater than 35. Okay, this is an inequality. It's just like an equation in terms of solving it. Okay, so the first thing I need to do is I need to move this isolated number of -7, and to move that, I want to do the opposite. So -7, the opposite would be +7, and I need to make sure I do that to both sides. When I do that, I get 3x is, and then going to be greater than 42, because 35 plus 7 is 42. Okay, from here, I want to divide both sides by the 3. Okay, 3 divided by 3 is 1. This leaves me with x. And then 42 divided by 3 is 14. So the final answer would be x is greater than or equal to 14. Looking at number 2, we're going to work on factoring still. Again, when I look at factoring, the first thing I always have to look for is, does it have a GCF? Is there a number that goes into all the numbers, and do they all share a variable? Well, looking at this equation or this trinomial, this has an x, this has an x, this doesn't have an x, so they don't share an x. Okay, but I do notice that they are multiples of 4. So I can take out a 4, and then I'm left with x squared minus 2x minus 3. And again, that was my GCF. And how I came up with that is when I took out the 4, 4 divided by 4 was 1, 8 divided by 4 was 2, and then 12 divided by 4 was 3. Again, that first step was just finding the GCF. Then I now have a trinomial of x squared minus 2x minus 3. In order to do that, I'm going to go 4, and I know I'm going to have two parentheses. Okay, and what I need to do is you can do your diamond method, you can do whatever method you prefer, but you're going to need to find two numbers that multiply to your C value and then add to your B value. So in this case, I need two numbers that multiply to -3 but add to -2. So those two numbers would be -3 and +1. Because -3 times 1 gives me -3, and then -3 plus 1 gives me -2. So my final answer would be 4x minus 3, x plus 1. And that is in factored form. Okay, the key word for this homework is Brunswick. Okay, identify the key parts of the graph below. Okay, this is an exponential graph. We learned exponential graphs in the last 2 weeks. Okay, hopefully you remember the domain of exponential graphs are always negative infinity to positive infinity. Okay, so again, domain of exponential graphs are always negative infinity to positive infinity. Okay, your range is how low to how high. So if I look at this graph, right, it starts flattening out right here, okay, which leads me to believe that it never touches that 0, that y value is 0. So I know my range is 0. And then how high does it go? Well, this thing continues to go all the way up to infinity. Y-intercept, where does it cross the y-axis? Remember, the y-axis is this vertical axis, so we want the coordinate point where it touches. Well, I know it's always the x value is 0, and then it crosses right here at the y value of 1. Okay? Asymptote, what is that y value that your graph never crosses? Well, again, if I look at my graph, it seems like it's flattening out, and it's going to get very, very close to this y value of 0, but it's never going to cross. Okay? So again, asymptote is simply, what is the y value that your graph is never going to cross? Okay, growth or decay. Again, growth means going up, decay means going down. So looking left to right, my graph is going up, so it is a growth problem. Okay, we're also now going to look at determining the rate of change. We have been working the rate of change from 2 coordinate points. Now we're going to do it from a graph. Okay, a lot of students find this to be a little bit simpler. We just have to make sure we're using the numbers. All right, so I'm going to pick 2 points on my graph. These are labeled, sometimes they won't be. Okay, so I have this point at 0, 1, and then I have this point at 2, negative 1. So I have to ask myself, how did I go from this point to this point? Well, I went down 1, 2, and I went over 1, 2. Okay, so I'm going to write down I went down 2, right 2. And what does that look like as a fraction? So if I go back up to insert equation, I want to put a fraction. So I went down 2, so negative 2, and then right 2, positive 2. And if I simplify that, negative 2 divided by 2 gives me negative 1. Now I was able to simplify this because this was a clean number. Negative 1 is a clean number. I can simplify it. If you cannot simplify it to a clean number, please keep it as a reduced fraction. So you could also say it could be negative 1, 1. All those are the same, okay? So if you are going to keep it as a fraction, please reduce it. If you are going to make it and you are going to simplify it to a number, please make sure that that is a whole number, okay? It is a nice clean number, no decimals, no 0.2222. Okay, if you get those types of answers, keep it as a fraction. Okay, so again, we're looking for it, we want to do rise over run. Okay, when I run, I always like to go to the right. So up, down, and then always to the right. Okay, keyword for today is Brunswick. All right, we're going to multiply polynomials. We have been working on adding and subtracting polynomials. Now we're going to multiply them. Okay, we've already given you the chart in the box. We just have to make sure we multiply correctly and then combine like terms. Okay, so again, how did I do this? 4x went to the top box, negative 2 went to the top box, 2x went to the side, 7 went to the side, and now we're just going to simply multiply. 2 times 4 is 8, 1x and 2x's gives me x squared. 2 times negative 2 is negative 4. This has an x. This doesn't have an x, so I just have 1x. 7 times 4 is 28. No x. 1x gets 1x. And then 7 times negative 2 is negative 14. Okay, so that is my first. That's how I fill in my box. I'm simply multiplying. Then I need to look at like terms. Well, I notice that this is a like term, and that is a like term with this guy. Okay, so I can combine those together. So what am I left with? 8x squared. Oh, try that again. 8x squared. 28 minus 4 is minus 20 plus 24x, my bad. And then you're left with your negative 14. So again, fill in your box, combine the like terms. Okay, the keyed word for the week is Brunswick.